So welcome to our Panasonic Presents booth here at NAB 2019. This is our second presentation. We're going to be doing these from today through Wednesday from roughly 10 to 4. And for this session, we're going to be talking to Chris Aguilar. And Chris is what do you call yourself, a documentary filmmaker?
I guess filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, and I also do branded content.
Yeah. So we met Chris, I think I met you on Instagram, actually.
Yes.
I saw some of your posts, and you were an EVA shooter.
Yeah.
And I think I just direct messaged you, and then we just started a conversation. And when the CX350 first came out, we were looking for somebody that made docs that would, be willing to try the camera out. So we got Chris. I think it was maybe the first camera. I think you were the first person to ever shoot with it. So Chris is going to talk a little bit about how he used the CX350 for a couple of projects. He's also an EVA 1 shooter and a GH5 user, correct?
Yeah.
So Chris's bio's up. So Chris, why don't you sort of give us your background and how you got started as a shooter?
Yeah, I've always been into video. I made surf content for a couple years, just sort of, here and there when I could. And then I didn't go to film school. I started out in weddings. It was a great place to cut your teeth, in my opinion. And back in the days when we were carrying tapes, and I had to carry everyone's bags, and it was heavy, and it was usually hot, and you were wearing a suit. And then I went into surfing, and then, like I said, I made 3 documentaries: one on stand-up paddleboarding, one on saltwater fly fishing. Like I said, that's my kind of random one, and then one short film that women in Maui who were starting a all-girls women's empowerment surf camp. So it was that was like a really cool kind of project to work on. And but a lot of my work right now is I do a lot of events in the paddle sports community. I'm a producer for the Molokai to Oahu Paddleboard World Championships. So it's a pretty exciting gig, and I spend a lot of time on boats and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's kind of my background.
So we're going to play a clip of, actually it's a full project that you shot predominantly with CX350 and a little bit of EVA 1. So why don't you kind of introduce it?
Yeah, so an example of my work you're going to see, this is on Joe and Jack Bark from Bark Paddleboards in Redondo Beach. It's a branded content. It kind of talks about, they're a father and son team who make paddleboards, and it's all by hand. And his dad, Joe, has been doing this for 40 years, and Jack, now in his 20s, is coming in learning to trade. So there's a little piece of branded content. The interviews were shot on EVA, and then everything else is the CX350, so you can check it out.
I feel like, I've grown up in the shop, so my earliest memories are, helping sweep up foam dust and drinking Slurpees at the shop. School in high school, and everyone's got their own surfboards that they bought, and you have one that you made. It's pretty rad.
Well, he did his first one way back when, I think in high school, and that board was amazing. We still have that.
I think one of the biggest things is my dad's been doing this for 40 years.
They were terrible. In the first couple of years, they were so tippy, and there was no real race except Catalina, and we were just building boards, my friends and I, and in the backyard, and just to cross Catalina, throw them in the backyard until the next year, and maybe do it again.
My dad and I, we paddle together all the time, training for the paddle season. We surf together, we dive together, we shape together, and we come to work, and it's fun. I think we have a great relationship because we get to do all this together, and it's not like we're working in an office. We're working with our hands, being creative, and designing new things, and so we're getting to think outside the box and put our brains together and work on projects, which is really cool.
A good eye on things. He really knows the stock board, knows the short boards, and it really helps me out. He has his own clientele and his own people who order boards from him, and he helps me with certain boards. It makes a big difference to have somebody help me.
like I said before, the time that he gives everyone who comes in here, or he's on the water, or he's paddling with, or out a race, he's the guy who's, when he finishes, he's at the water's edge, you know, shacking boards for everyone until the race is over, to the last person, you know, and just the way he treats people is pretty cool. And I think, and that's something I want to, you know, carry on with me as I grow up, and just give everyone that same respect and like friendship that he does.
Some of that long lens stuff looked really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm impressed with, you know, it's funny, you said I shoot with the EVA and a GH5, and then I got the CX350, and I'm in a camcorder, and so impressed, and it feels so good sometimes to have that full body kind of feel back in your hand, and the zoom ratio is pretty excellent on it.
So were you a traditional camcorder shooter before? Because I know, you know, since you were an EVA shooter and you were a GH5 shooter, like, what was it about the form factor that you really appreciated?
A lot of that came from my early work in weddings, you know, and a lot of that too was also this belief that, like, well, it's like the bigger the camera, the better, right? And but I was an old school Panasonic person. I saw a clip of an HMC 150 way back in the day, and I was like, I want that camera. And so yeah, we were like fist bumped on that one earlier, and I was like, that is the camera. And I used that one pretty religiously for a number of years till the GH3 came out.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go for that camera. And then when this one it's been really fun to have that.
You know, we think about like the traditional camcorders back in the day. Those were 1/3 inch, and you know, this is a 1-inch sensor, so it's almost the size of, you know, shooting Super 16.
Yeah.
So, what was your overall first impression of working with the CX350?
You know, it was kind of like putting on a good old pair of shoes. You know, they just feel perfect, and you know how to use it, because the controls are very similar to what I was experiencing in previous camcorder models. You have ND filters, you have the shutter controls, you have, you know, all the things you'd expect. But what I didn't expect was the quality that came out of it, because it was the 4K on that camera is pretty amazing. And like you said, the long lens of it, I was really impressed with, because I was able to achieve that DSLR look everyone's looking for out of a camcorder body, but still have professional audio inputs. And for me, a lot of my event work is like, that's kind of an unusual circumstance where I get branded content where I can set up, and we can control. We are shooting from a boat, so you can tell the boat where to go. Usually I'm on a media boat that is also handling safety, so you can't tell the boat where to go. So having that a lot of flexibility in the camera was really important to me as well, and I found that to be really good.
Yeah, so we were on a boat, and I remember you were saying, yeah, just probably bring your GH5, just because you know, there's not going to be a lot of room.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about the when you're shooting with a camera like this, in terms of like the conditions that you're shooting in.
Yeah, well, I mean, so for example, Molokai to Oahu, that paddleboard race, you know, it's across the Kaiwi Channel. It's 32 miles between the island of Oahu and the island of Molokai, and it's one of the like heaviest bodies of water in the world, and it's usually pretty rough. And the funny part is, when we load the boats to go and start shooting the race, we have to swim our gear to the boat. There's no dock, so a Pelican case is very much needed, and so I have to jam an entire production unit, you could say, into a carry-on Pelican case. So this camera fits perfectly in that with my GH5, and I can fit my wireless in there, and then you know, cables and maybe a power pack if I need it for the phone, and then that's about it. That's all the room I've got. You know, there's no taking a backpack or anything even. You know, it's pretty rugged. So having something like this camera that is able to do so much with the one body is really important for me as a kind of an event producer, or doing any type of live kind of sports documentary. It's important.
And the other thing, that I was on the boat for one day of the shoot with Chris, and because I had my GH5, I asked you, I was like, I only have 1.9 ND filter. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's again the advantage of the camcorder is you do have the multiple ND filters built in.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I find is that it's very cumbersome. And again, the boat we were on for this shoot was actually a pretty good size one for us. Is 20 feet. The Catalina Classic, another paddleboard race I get to shoot for Bark paddleboards. That one I'm on a 14-foot whaler, jutting around the ocean, and so again, one case, one set of gear. That's all I can take, and so I don't have room to carry multiple lenses, and that's I think where I break from the DSLR movement a little bit, because I don't have the advantage of being able to carry a whole like backpack full of lenses and ND filters for every condition. I need a camera that's going to do it all in one shot, and I can't. And especially in the middle of the ocean, if it's rough, I'm not opening a camera body and taking a lens off. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of, not good for the camera, right? So, so having the camcorder kind of gives me a little more flexibility and a lot more, like I said, lightness of travel. ND filters are built in. I don't have to carry, a 200 millimeter zoom and another prime lens and all this other stuff. I can just do it all in one shot, which is I need.
So the other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is maintaining critical focus. And for a dock shooter, it's not necessarily like, some dock shooters want to get that shallow depth of field, but for this kind of camcorder, what stop are you generally shooting at in a day shoot?
On a day shoot, I'm usually trying to go f3.5. I open it a little bit and then use the ND filters to compensate.
Okay. So you do try to get a cinematic depth of field.
I do try to. Sometimes I did find one shoot I did with this camera was an event in San Pedro called the Cold Hands, and I did find having the way the lens opens up, it's really amazing how wide angle the lens is, and so there was a great background, so I shot a higher f-stop there to get more of the background in. But usually I try to get some of that cinematic look out of it. But again, we talked about before with the GH5, to get that look, I'd have to, get a lot of shutter speed up if I don't have a screw-on ND filter handy or something like that. And then my subject's movements all look very juddery, that little kind of speedy look, and I personally don't like it, and I see it on docks and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I know what they did. But having again the camcorder, I'm able to use built-in ND filters to compensate.
So you're shooting at usually a 1/50th shutter stop speed.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. 125, 150.
Yeah, no, that's true in terms of like most people have to bump it up to like 1 over 250 or whatever.
Yeah, they're going 250, 500. It's like, and then it's like I just don't see things that way naturally.
Yeah.
I want my footage to look how I see the world. I don't want it to look animated or overly processed, you could say.
So, talk to me a little bit about your work with the other cameras. Since you're a big Panasonic guy, so you have an EVA 1 and you also have a GH5. How do you use the tools?
So we talked about before. It's kind of like having the right tool for the right thing. And I do like the GH5 a lot because I can switch. I'm a photographer like from a little guy. My dad and I used to go out and use film cameras and take photos, and I still have his 1960 something Hasselblad that I take out and go for a walk with. I love that little camera. It's amazing. And so I still love the GH5 for my photography and to be able to go between the two. The GH5 also gives me, like I said, I need something small, so if I can just pop a zoom lens on there and jump on a boat, I'm pretty good as long as it's going to be not like too crazy out there. It's kind of like using the right tool for the right thing. The EVA I found is like my go-to interview camera. The thing is just beautiful. That camera I got it last summer, and that's how we linked up. Is I exported a bunch of footage from the middle of the Molokai Channel and be like, here's the EVA 1, and there's this guy paddling across the channel with it. And I found it was just a great piece of equipment to use for like my interview setups and other things like that. Now, the way this camera would fit into my workflow, it would probably be my go-to action camera because it's able to, like I said, it has so much in one body that I don't have to mess with a bunch of things. Because again, in my environments, the less I'm having to mess with things, the better it is. The better it is for the equipment, the better it is for everybody involved. Because I'll be honest, in some of the shoots, there's me, there's two photographers, there's people jumping in and out of the water. It's slippery, So the less I have to kind of futz with anything and get below or do something, the better. So, but it's again, each camera I feel like has a different application in my workflow and how I attack an event. So if I get an event job, I'll look at it and be like, okay, well, I'll use this here, and that here. Same with like I'm leaving for Seattle to make work on a little passion project, a little documentary I wanted to make, and that's going to be an EVA and a GH5, and it's going to be like, okay, EVA's going to fit really well in interview, and then these guys are going to paddle out and then back, so I need a long lens, so I have a Canon EF, I think 300 zoom for that part for the EVA, and then GH5 will come in handy for just some little pickup B-roll stuff, so it's kind of just like. Mike's going in and out. There it goes.
So my final question, let's talk a little bit about post. Yeah. These are 3 different camera systems. Talk a little bit about the color. Does it match well? How much work do you have to do with the files?
Yeah, I find they actually integrate pretty well. I mean, Panasonic's does a pretty good job as far as, I think you guys try to use some of the same codecs in most of them,
Yeah.
So,
there's no log on the CX350, and do you shoot with the Vlog L with the GH5?
I don't shoot the Vlog L and GH5. I do shoot the Vlog on the EVA, and only because I think the Vlog and the EVA are like, it's just like a match made in heaven, especially in post. I use all Adobe product, and I found that I don't have to do a lot of work to make it integrate. I mean, you saw in this piece, because I'll do an interview in this case, like we were in a shaping room, and the lights, if you've ever been in a surfboard shaping room, the light's amazing. You get some pretty cool light out of there. So using the EVA in there versus on water footage, you already have that contrast. So the footage can marry really well. I try to white balance as good as I can in the field and in controlled environments to try to make sure I get as good of a match as possible. But I have found that they do integrate really well. I haven't done a project because I had the CX350 for probably a solid month. When I got it, I was like, I called everybody. I'm like, we're going to go shooting, and try to put this thing through the paces, see what it could do. And but I found out that footage. I did another project, and it was bright daylight with the EVA interview on beach, and it was cloudy, and all that actually fit in pretty well. I didn't see a big dramatic difference between it all.
Does anyone have any questions for Chris?
What were your frame rates on the water?
Sure. So in the piece you saw, I shot to get that smooth slow-mo. That was before I actually got into the CX350 a lot and figured out the frame rate setting. I was like, oh, there's that. So I shot it in 60 frame. And then the interviews on the EVA were shot in 24. So my workflow is I kind of dump everything onto a 60 frame timeline, and then I export it and convert it, transcode to 24.
Are there any other questions? So, thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
thank you.
And
please go check out the CX350. There's a behind-the-scenes talk that we made on Chris. It's playing at the booth, so it's on the other side of the booth. So thank you for coming.
I'll be happy to answer any questions after.
Thank you.
Sorry about the sound problem. No worries, man.